Had too much sugar. Wow, that's off camera. Okay. I'm Jamie St. Louis. We're ready to roll. Does this lighting work for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm presenting to you guys today industrial design. What is industrial design? You guys have any ideas?
Yeah, it's all around this.
I already told you twice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can define it, but it's like produce and mechanical things or something like that. Or even bottles, I guess, cans.
Chairs, tables, whatever. I mean, cars.
I think you're all right. So what comes to mind when you think industrial design?
Buildings, cars.
George Nelson. He's kind of a famous designer for a furniture company.
IKEA.
Okay, great. So is this industrial design, would you say?
Basically.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so it is and it isn't. A common misconception with industrial design, and I hear this all the time, people say industrial design, what is that? Do you design factories? Well, industrial design is, actually I have the exact definition right here. It's a hyperlink. It should work. It does not. Can I ask you a question, Rowan? I opened this in the, how do you get it so it doesn't have this on the side, so it's actually...
I don't know, maybe you can drag the border on the left. You drag the border over, I don't know. You know where that... Ah, you did.
Yeah.
So it was up top there somewhere.
Hyperlink now works. Oh, but it's not working there. Oh, why is that? I got the hyperlink to work on this screen, but not over there. Okay. So, industrial design is the design of mass-produced consumer products. Industrial designers often trained as architects or other visual artist professionals. They're usually part of a larger creative team, and part of what they do is to make things pleasing to the eye. In a lot of cases, what they do is they will work with their customer. Say they work for a large design firm and a client comes into the design firm and the client's like, well, I make this product but I need to do something new with it. So what they do is they go and they'll find a consumer, sort of like a guinea pig, and they'll ask the consumer how they use a product. But they don't just ask, they also watch, because the consumers lie. They'll say, oh, I use this product this way. And then when they watch, they find that the consumer actually uses the product slightly differently. So they gather this data and they use that to create the product that then goes to market for the consumer. Another thing
top.
So I'm going to go back to this one for a second. This is industrial design and isn't. It isn't because its industrial design is not limited to a factory, but it also is industrial design because there are machines there that someone had to actually design. Although these particular things might lean a little more towards engineering because it's not like anybody put any aesthetic stuff into this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So on to another slide. I told you about products. Another aspect of industrial design is workflow systems. Designers are not limited to products. They're not limited to buildings. They also could design the way you work at your job. They could come into where you work and they could ask, they'd collect information about how you work and then revamp the workflow system and rearrange things to get rid of flaws and make life easier. In my personal opinion, this is an understated and probably one of the most important aspects of an industrial designer's job is when they can rearrange processes. Because who doesn't want their work to go a little better? I also thought I would talk about some design schools. Now, one of the sad things about industrial design is the educational aspect. I don't think that industrial design is well known enough to the public, especially not to younger people like high school age students, which is why I'm putting on this presentation, because I really want to inform the public about industrial design. I really like young people to know that there are jobs out there for them. As far as education goes, in the state of Maine, last time I checked, there was no industrial design major. So that's really a sad thing for our young people because they'd have to go out of state. Now, going out of state isn't totally impossible, but not every student can afford out of state tuition rates. The closest school that has industrial design is Mass Art. And they're very difficult to get into, and they are more expensive than your average state school. So the average student with an average income and average grades, if he's from the state of Maine, industrial design is going to be difficult for him to get into school-wise. There's also another school called RISD, Rhode Island School of Design. They're well known. If you go to that school, it's really easy for you to get a job because they're so well known. They're also very expensive. You're going to spend about $52,000 a year. That's tuition and room and board. That's a lot of money. And there's another school I want to tell you guys about called Art Center. They're all the way over in sunny California. They're not going to have dorms until 2021. They're an amazing school. They're even harder to get into than Mass Art and RISD. One really good thing about Art Center is they don't have just product design, they also have automotive design, and that's good if you want to design automobiles. So the design process, designers collect some data, and they, like I said earlier, they talk to their customers and they look at how they can design their products. They will draw lots of little drawings, make little models, test things out, present them to people, see how they work, videotape the people using them, get feedback, and they'll go back. They'll rework their models and their drawings. They never just draw one thing and go with it. They'll do like lots of little different thumbnail sketches and then go with the one that they think is best. Which brings me to idea generation. That's pretty much what I just explained. And on to the next slide. So this is a lamp that I designed. One of the benefits of this lamp is cost effectiveness, and I'm going to bring you to the next slide to explain. This lamp is by the Alvin Lamp Co. It's a desk lamp with a magnifying thing. It can easily cost $1 million for a company to tool up to make a lamp sized and shaped like that. I spoke to one professor and he told me that they were working on a lamp like this, only made out of metal. This one appears to be plastic, and it literally cost $1 million. Now, the upside of something like this this lamp that I designed, this lampshade comes from Target. That wood piece is something that I can have a local wood shop make for me, and the innards are things that you can buy from Home Depot. So industrial design can be really expensive to get into if you wanted to make your own products. Not everybody has $1 million. But if you start on a smaller level, like maybe get something, design something really simple. Also, a lot of industrial designers that I've spoken to, I went to a school in Philadelphia, and some of the people there were getting into what's called soft goods. Soft goods would be jackets, clothing, school bags. One of my professors started a line of baby bag products that he was selling at a big chain store, and I thought that was super cool. So back to the idea generation, here's an example. This is a slide I grabbed off, well, a photo I grabbed off the internet. Someone was designing a blender, and they've designed many different blenders before going with the final one. So I wanted to talk about workplaces, design firms, and others. We have some car companies labeled here as design firms. These companies do a lot of their own designing. I mentioned Tesla and Mazda, two of my favorite car companies. Now that we're talking about car companies, I wanted to let you know that there is there's a large car company. Well, it's a large business that will design a car for you. They're Magnastera/Push. They make a lot of the world's cars, and people don't realize it. Like if you're a car company, you can just go to them and they'll design and build the whole car for you. When the Chrysler 300M came out, it was being produced in Austria by Push. Not many people know that. So as an industrial designer, obviously you could work at any large company, and part of what you do is keep the business organized and streamline things a bit. Now, okay, I was going to show you Tesla and Mazda. Unfortunately, those two are not opening. Let's go over to this. ARP is a really large multinational company that functions in almost every country on the planet. They are involved in many levels of design. Not only do they work on products, I know one of the things they do is lamps, they also do buildings. And this is one of my favorite ARP buildings. It's in London. It's called the Gherkin. The exterior is all glass, and it looks rather bejeweled, quite like a really fancy Fabergé egg.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
It looks like it's gonna take off like a rocket.
Now-
Looks like it landed in the historic
Yes.
district.
Yeah. So this website, Core 77, keeps people up to date on what's going on in the design world. They have contests, and they talk about the latest new weird design things. I think once they had a bicycle made out of cardboard. Believe it or not, reinforced cardboard can be used to make a bicycle. They have a list of educational institutions. They're linked to a job board. So if you're looking for an industrial design job, it's called Coraflood, and it is linked to Core 77. Also, if you're an industrial design student, you will hear about this in your first year of school, and it will be commonplace that this will get mentioned, and you're going to probably go to that website a time or two. This is Raymond Loewy. Many people think of him as the father of industrial design. In the 1930s, he came over to the United States. He was in World War I or World War II. It was World War II. He fought, and he had, basically he decorated his tent It was like the swankest tent, and he has this thing for design. He had furniture in there, and it was just really cool. Anyway, when he came to the States, he was under the impression that everything in America was streamlined and great. He was let down. He found that our trains weren't that sleek, they were loud, things were big, things were boxy. So he set out to fix that. And here he is standing on top of a bullet train. Well, it's not a bullet train, but it's a train that looks like a bullet. This is a train that he designed, and things are starting to look streamlined here. So in the 30s, he promoted himself as an industrial designer, and it took 10 years for the concept to really go anywhere. He would call design firms, you know, people that might make a piece of furniture with some electronics in it. And I say electronics then were different, like maybe a record player or a sewing machine built into a box. And at the time, their idea of design was, well, we've got this awkward box with some legs that stick out that are like pencils, and we've got this mechanical thing glued to it, but to make it look good, we're just going to draw something ornate. And he was like, no, we're going to take that and we're going to make that into something functional and streamlined all the way around, not unlike maybe some of the printers you guys see today. Anyway, it took a while for that to catch on because it'd call customers and the customers would be like, well, we're already selling so many dollars worth of stuff, we don't need you, we don't see why you're important. And he would knock on people's doors and just like, hey, you know, you need me, I want to help you. And it took, I'd say, about 5 years until he really got some business going. And then it got to the point where the people who he was designing for were selling so much stuff because he was making their stuff so much better that by the end of 10 years, he was super busy, and the people that turned him away finally realized, oh, we've lost all these sales because Raymond Loewy has made other people's design stuff so much better that finally at the end of 10 years, everyone was looking to him and other industrial designers for industrial design. And at the end of 10 years, industrial design became something that people knew, because before 1934, it wasn't really a thing, you know? Which is the case with many other professions. I hear graphic design is similar. It took a while before that really got noteworthy. There weren't any textbooks on graphic design until 1984. It's kind of recent. So this is Marc Newson. His work is somewhere between art and design, and he says he's not really sure. And here's a photo of Marc himself. And here's some information on him. So he was born in 1963 in Australia. He graduated in '84 from Sydney College of Arts. And when he was going to school, he was getting a major in jewelry and metalsmithing. And it's almost like he became a designer on accident, because his education was in wearable things, and he decided furniture was wearable. Kind of cheeky. So there's something called the Lockheed Lounge. I'm going to show this to you. This piece. They're selling for like $1 million now. He only made a handful of them. When I say $1 million, they go for auction. This is what made him an industrial designer, because this is a piece of furniture, this is industrial design, but as I said earlier, it wasn't his original intent to be an industrial designer. And let's see, so being a child that grew up in the 60s, his specific design language revolves around 60s-ish stuff. I'll show you a camera in a minute. This isn't the best example of 60s-ish stuff. I think I might Google something after. But something about the way he curves and simplifies things, yeah, that's his language. Sort of boxy, sort of curvy. This is a camera he did for Pentax a few years ago. It doesn't look like all their cameras. It's got this almost kindergarten toy look to the edges.
Or they're smoother lines.
Yeah.
That's one of the lines.
So I was wondering, what kinds of designs interest all of us? Anybody interested in any specific type of design? What?
Buildings.
Buildings? A particular design language of a particular building that interests you? Can you name one? Like, is there a period of architecture that you like?
Well, I'd say modern right now. But I like historic buildings as well. But modern architecture.
Anyone else? Tammy?
I've seen house hunters before, and some of the houses, you know, like the Craftsman and Colonial and Federal, and you know, all different designs, you know.
Yes. I am going to find a Marc Newson a Marc Newson piece. Okay. Can you guys see this? Here's Marc Newson again. Here's that crazy chair. Here is another chair he did. Would you say that's 60s-ish? Sort of?
That kind of looks like
The late 50s, I would say.
50s, yeah.
It kind of looks like a mock-up of a cell.
Yeah.
You expect there to be mitochondria and all kinds of other things in there.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you guys one other thing he did.
Is there a way to dim these lights in here, Jamie, just a tad?
I bet we could just go to kill them.
Well, not completely, but
Or turn
I'm
half up.
sure you can.
I think there's
Turn
one
down.
switch for the whole deal. Unfortunately, I think, does that work for you guys?
I don't know.
Is everyone happy with this?
Yeah, it's probably better, I guess.
Here is a car that Marc Newson did. You guys see that? He did that for Ford a while ago. Maybe, actually it was like 17 years ago. Does that look 60s-ish?
Yeah.
So I would go 50s, late 50s, don't you? Wouldn't you?
Yeah, and what's the name of the car? Ford?
It's a Ford 021C, and that's the name of the Pantone shade of orange that it happens to be in. Ford never produced it.
I was over when I did.
Well, they did a
something.
documentary on that a couple of weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. But it was late at night and I didn't want to disturb him.
Is it PBS? Where
I
did you see
don't,
it?
no, it wasn't PBS. No.
This is one of my favorite cars because it's so geeky and to the point. I love stuff like this. I would be so pleased to drive a vehicle like
Yes,
this.
it's compact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that whole spot across the grill is a headlight.
Yeah.
Wow. I can see you coming my way.
Yeah.
Literally.
But
Yeah.
the lights back then were better than the ones they have out today. The ones they have out today blind you.
Yeah,
You know,
the
they're too
LEDs,
white,
whatever
they're
they
too,
are.
they should outlaw it. Because when you're driving towards it,
Yeah.
It's annoying.
So that's the car with the doors open and the trunk open.
that's neat, it is.
I would love to have something like that. Things like this inspire me. My goal has been to be an automotive designer for a while now. I, as some of you know, went to school for that for a while. I'm going to show you more of the interior.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. Something airplane-ish about it.
Yeah, really.
hard
No
not to
offense,
like
but
this.
it kind of looks like one of those Fisher Price cars that you see.
Fisher Price is a good word. I should have come up with that when I was showing you guys. Remember the camera?
Yeah, really.
Was that Fisher Price-ish?
Yeah, kind of.
Fisher Price. I used that term just a week ago. Anyway,
And that kind of looks like the color of an orange creamsicle.
it does. Here's the trunk opener on one of these.
Oh wow.
That really looks 50s to me.
Yeah, really.
And look at the ceiling. That's a fun ceiling. He's also done a bit of clothing, and he's done airplane cockpits. I think he's one of my favorite designers because he's got a foot in everything. He's done a car, he's done a plane, he's done some clothing. And personally, I view myself as a multifaceted designer where I would want to do more than just one. Oh,
There you go.
there you go.
No, it wasn't one.
We're cooking with Wesson oil. I'm just gonna show you guys. So there's the green version. There's the
That's
interior.
cool.
Check out that steering wheel.
Psychedelic.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Here's that same car in a museum.
Oh wow.
I wonder if it actually drives.
It
Oh,
looks
I'm
like you would
sure
look
it
in and
does.
say, hi, DP. You know,
Very basic, very simple.
yes, it does look real good. You
There's
know,
something.
for a car.
I mean, apart from the fact that it's not a flying saucer, it's kind of Jetsony.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint slide now.